guests and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to Trentovision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Trentovision is hosted by Tom Trento. Tom can be reached at 561-319-5533 or Tom at trentovision.tv. Listen and watch every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. on AM 1470 WNN and trentovision.tv. Now, let's get a peek at Tom's view of the world. Here's Tom Trento.
We have the Duff for all seasons today. I hear Duff in my ears. I see Duff in front of my face. He's all over the place. What are you doing in there?
Joe gets a vacation.
Oh, he gets a vacation. But he's listening. Hi, Joe, wherever you are. I'm sure you're tuned in.
Hoping for me to make a mistake.
Yes, of course. Joe's tuned in, I'm sure, listening to the show, going, that's not the way you lead into the Trento show. What are you doing? You know? But usually Joe comes in here, spends about 5 minutes discussing world events, all of that, and giving us his viewpoint. We miss Joe. Joe, where are you? We miss you. But Duff can handle the Starship Enterprise quite well. No problem. Right here. And, man, are we going to be on a wild ride today? Huh, kiddies? Hi, CJ. How are you? I don't hear you because your microphone is way far away.
Sorry, I thought you were going to do the monologue.
Well, you know, who knows? You never know. Keep you guessing. How come I still don't hear you?
How come you still don't?
Yeah, that's not on.
It's not on?
No, your mic's not on.
How do I turn it on?
Ah, there you go.
There you go.
Magically.
Oh.
Am I on?
Yes, you're on. Yes.
Okay.
Now everybody's
on.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello. Now we can all hear each other. How about Mike?
How's it going?
The
Invisible Mike and disembodied
yeah,
voice
invisible
of Mark.
Mike, disembodied Mark, and we're here. Hi, folks. Tom Trento, fighting a little frog in my throat. Frog in my throat. Better than a frog in my pants, that's for sure. Fighting a little frog in my throat.
You just did not say that,
Oh, yeah, in your pocket. You have a frog in your pocket. It jumps all around. We're little kids. You used to put them in our pockets.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, then.
You didn't do that? Okay.
I
Put them in
thought
boiling
you were
water.
referring to France and Hamas. I didn't know that.
No. But it's going to be an interesting day on our Activism Friday, which we typically do. But we don't have to do any activism because it's happening all over the world. Some very serious stuff going on that we will address and make sense for you. In that, when you watch the news shows, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, whatever, you're getting supposedly fair and balanced information. But everybody has their little editorial. What, Mark? You keep giving them.
No, it was just like you just heard about that whole Chris Christie story all over Fox and everybody else yesterday. So it just,
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. If you weren't with us yesterday, we had a investigative reporter, Ryan Morrow from New Jersey. By the way, my team here, CJ and Mark, it's driving them crazy, our New Jersey listeners. So why don't one of you call in today?
Well, I had a guess on that. I thought it was actually.
Well, let me tell everybody what it is.
Okay.
And then you can tell them what your guess is. What we're going to do, first of all, today, as we get into WNN 1470, if you're driving in the automobile and you just hit a button, you go, what the heck is this? This is our radio show. We own Southeast Florida from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock every day. We're here. We're ready to go. Rock and rollin'. TrentoVision.tv. The vision part is you can literally watch this radio show. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Or you can listen at 1470 on the AM dial. Or you can watch the archive shows when you go home. And you should watch all the archive shows. But yesterday's first hour, 3 o'clock hour, we had on Ryan Morrow. And he's from New Jersey. He's an investigative reporter on national security issues. And he just totally busted Governor Chris Christie for being in bed with the Muslim Brotherhood. And deeply in bed with the Muslim Brotherhood. And in that conversation, I'm from New Jersey. I said that I had to vet Ryan to make sure he wasn't a spy. I said the one way to know somebody's from New Jersey, I'll ask 2 words. They'll give me a quick answer. If they give me a quick answer, they're from New Jersey. If they can't answer, they're not from New Jersey. It's that simple. And the question was yesterday, what exit? And Ryan said 98, and he was right. So, and now Mark and CJ are trying to figure out what that means. But those of you from New Jersey know exactly what I mean. So call in, tell Mark and CJ, 888-565-1470. Now, what was your guess, Mark?
Well, I thought you said 98. I didn't know you said exit 98. I thought you just said 98.
I said what exit?
What
and
exit?
his answer was 98. Yeah.
Oh, is that the Hoboken exit?
No, it has nothing to do with it. Has nothing to do with the intent of the question.
What exit? Well, and also, I looked also that you're referring to the number 98, which was 98, which is the 6-3.
Wrong guess.
Well, hold on,
Okay.
6-3. This is actually pretty interesting.
Okay.
6-3 Supreme Court decision that the long-held dispute over who owns the Statue of Liberty, either New York or New Jersey, and
Jersey.
and it was owned by New York all the way up until 1998 when the Supreme Court said 6-3. No, the actual deed holder of the land is actually
ASAP.
New Jersey.
Why don't we get 'em?
But that was wrong.
Anywhere into 3 hours.
I don't have a reference.
Oh, you're not
on
listening.
this number.
But it was actually pretty interesting because it was a long-held.
Are you saying something, Mark?
Okay.
Yes.
Are you over?
Am I over? I thought it was an interesting story. Who owns the Statue of Liberty? A long-held dispute between New York
Okay.
and New Jersey. New Jersey won.
Okay.
Now, okay, I thought that
Just
was
say
it.
over when you
Over.
Over. Okay.
Okay.
We're
We're trying to save the world over here. What do you got
Yeah. Well, what I have is kind of an analogy. Being in this little studio with you guys
Right.
is kind of like the short story "No Exit." For those of you who read, okay, "No Exit." Is that the correct answer?
No, but you may or may not know that today is
Mike
Day
likes
of
that
Rage.
story.
Yes.
Today's Day of Rage in the Muslim world.
Yeah.
And I'm getting real-time photographs from the mosque in Richardson, Texas, or Irvine, Texas, the Holy Land Foundation Mosque,
Yeah. Move your flag.
where the Holy Land it is kind of in the way, isn't it?
Yeah, move it up to the top.
Where the Holy Land trial, which we'll tell our look at that, that's pretty good there.
There you go.
We'll tell our folks about that. The largest terrorism funding trial, federal trial in the United States, and a bunch of Muslims were found guilty and
Along with CARE. And a
are
whole
in
bunch of-
jail and unindicted co-conspirators and all that. But I'm getting pictures, and the pictures are amazing. The cars are going around the block. This is church time or synagogue time for Muslims. Friday, Jumu'ah prayer right now, 2-3 o'clock. And the cars are lining up around the block, hundreds of cars coming to the Day of Rage in support of Palestine over Israel.
What are they raging
now.
against, Tom?
Jews, against the Jews.
Okay. I just
for-
want to clarify.
Yeah, against the Jews, come on, you know. And that's going to be one of our main subjects today because we have harped for years, 5-6 years, longer in many respects. But on the radio here on WNN, we've been harping on national security issues since we started this program September 3rd, Labor Day of this year. And we were on from 2 to 3, and then 2 or 3 weeks ago we expanded 3 to 6. That's our intent. We have 2 ways you could help support this. We're a little bit like PBS. You can make a donation to keep our educational programming on the air, or you can participate in the opportunity to help support by, we'll support your products. We'll advertise. We'll do some radio commercials for you. So 2 ways. If you're interested at all in that, contact Tom at trentovision.tv. We'll get you all the information. And if you want to make a donation, you can go right to trentovision.tv. Tax exempt, all of that stuff. Go there, take a look at it, and help keep the circus on the road. But it's a circus that's a little bit entertaining but highly informative, but it's got an edge. Our edge is that we get out and do stuff. And the only way to change the world, or the world will change you, is to get out and do something about it. We're very good at that, and that's what this show is about. Taking information, arguing the issues, arguing for a particular point of view, being an advocate, standing firmly on it, and doing something about it. And what is our foundation? Our foundation, philosophically, is the Judeo-Christian worldview, but in particular, jurisprudentially, it's the Constitution of the United States of America. So people who work with us are Jewish people, Christian people, Hindu people, atheist people. It doesn't matter. As long as you hold to the principles, the exceptional principles of the U.S. Constitution, that's what we're all about. If that kind of stuff makes you shiver and chills go up and down your legs, you're with us, man. That's what we're all about. We love this country. It's a tremendous country. We see evil people trying to hurt this country, and we will fight them to the day we die on the cultural end. But sadly, on the kinetic end, and you'll hear this little ditty we say, or this couplet, cultural and kinetic. You'll hear that a lot, because it's a great way of understanding the battle against ideologies that confront American exceptionalism. The kinetic side is what is occurring right now in Israel, and we're gonna deal quite a bit with that. The cultural side are the same jihadis in the Middle East who lay down their weapons, come to the United States, and then try to implement their view of the world through influence operations, through illegal activity, through phony baloney educational programs, and we fight them on a cultural level. We argue in the battlefield of ideas. That's what we do. So I'm getting more little clicks on this thing here. Oh, let me make a clarification over yesterday's opening monologue. Had a couple of people a little bit concerned what I was saying, and I opened yesterday. This is Tom Trento speaking if you're driving in your car. I opened yesterday with a monologue where I assumed the personality of another individual. I didn't tell anybody I did that, but by the content and the delivery and the presentation of what I was doing, it's supposed to communicate that way. But when you're in front of a live audience doing that, it's much easier to communicate unspoken words because the person sees not only hears but sees the experience, and you're primarily concerned about the presentation when somebody's speaking in front of you. When you're driving your car, you better not be primarily concerned about the radio. You better be driving your car first. So the radio is a secondary concern when you're driving. So sometimes the nuances of a creative monologue presentation get a little blurred, which could have happened yesterday. What I did was I assumed the persona of President Obama, and in a phone conversation, and you only heard half the conversation. The other part of the conversation was inferred based upon what I was saying. That's the way this is supposed to work. And I was playing the role that I believe President Obama would play as the war is unleashing in Israel, and as the enemies are surrounding the Jewish people. And I finished the monologue, but I had an epilogue to the monologue. I had a little kind of rejoinder at the end to kind of squeeze home the point of President Obama's animus and disdain for Jewish people and for Israel. I firmly believe, based upon all the academic work I have done studying this president, he has disdain and animus for Jewish people and for Israel. He does not like Jewish people. He does not like the state of Israel. We'll develop that in a minute because that's critically important. And then if we can convince you that that's true based upon factual presentation of the material, then you'll understand his behavior as it relates to this battle that's taking place. So my rejoinder at the end yesterday was after I said, "Oh, I'm your best friend, but I'm not going to help you." Basically, that was the intent of the point. To really double down on it, I made a reference to Valerie, which was Valerie Jarrett, saying, "Call the Jews in Florida, thank them for voting for me, and see if you can raise some more money from them." And I guarantee you, that's the conversation that takes place behind closed doors in the White House. But it was understood by some, what I said, that I was implicating I was putting on the shoulders of all Jewish people the loss, because then I went on to say, and all of you Jewish folks that voted for President Obama, and I went on and argued you shouldn't have done that. There was a concern on the parts of some folks that I was putting the complete loss of the presidential race on the shoulders of the Jewish people in the United States. Absolutely not. There were many factors for the loss. In fact, as a Christian, and if you listen to this show regularly, we focused on two demographics where we were going to win this presidential election. The evangelical Christians, 1 million of them who do not vote, and the veterans, 1.6 million, most of who, 50% or so, voted for President Obama.
This is in Florida.
Yeah, those two numbers are just in Florida.
Yeah.
That would have turned the whole thing around.
Yeah.
So our focus on the culpable parties, more so because there's more votes coming out of those groups, are Christian groups and veterans. And that's where we spent a lot of work. So the clarification is by no means that I want to lay the loss on the shoulder of all Jewish people. But what I was saying was, if you are a Jewish person and you bought the crap, you bought the line that I'm the best friend Israel ever had. I was in 4 debates with 3 leading Jewish people in South Florida. All 3 of them said he's the best friend for Israel. These are people with advanced degrees and people with political capability and knowledge and expertise. They are culpable of leading their followers down the primrose path of thinking President Obama is the friend of the Jew. That's the intent of what I was saying yesterday. Now, I want to bring you guys in on this. We have done a lot of work, tremendous amount of work on the person of President Obama. We've done extensive psychological analyses, educational analyses, PowerPoint presentations. We've gone through his life. Let me ask both of you, CJ, Mark, your view. Here's the question. Is President Obama a friend of Israel? And if the answer is yes, why? If the answer is no, why? Yes.
You go first. He is not a friend of Israel. It's simply because, first of all, his views are just not consistent with his actions, and he says one thing, but yet he does completely the other. And his whole idea of being an anti-colonialist, he thinks that Israel is simply a colonial state that was forced in the area, and he sees everybody else around fighting as resistance fighters, as freedom fighters. And that's the reason he supported the Arab Spring. That's the reason he supports, Hamas. That's the reason he supports, every other
Libya and all that
other stuff. I mean, he saw Libya as a dictatorial ruler ruling over an area, and that the people outside as freedom fighters. He views the Muslim Brotherhood as a freedom-fighting organization, yet he views bin Laden as a terrorist, because he's not a freedom fighter. He's just a thug out there killing people. That's the difference in his head. And Israel is just but a roadblock, and Jews are, part of the greedy capitalist monolith that is supported by the United States.
At least according to the church he went to for 20 years.
And this is right out of Reverend Wright's mouth, right?
That was Jeremiah Wright's Trinity, what was the name?
Trinity Church?
Trinity Church, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
called
think
Trinity
it was just
Church,
Trinity. I think it was a
wasn't
Methodist church. But in Chicago, 20 years, it was a Jew-hating, anti-Semitic. Louis Farrakhan celebrated. Louis Farrakhan won awards from the church that Obama went to, and Jewish people in Florida think he's on their side.
Yeah.
Help me out here.
Hey, I got to
was
deal with
in,
BB all the
Wait,
time.
Let me hear.
Yeah, that was in their church magazine.
Give me get her in here.
Their church magazine, The Trumpet.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, The Trumpet. No, Barack
Farra-
Obama.
what was in the trumpet?
I think they made Louis Farrakhan Man of the Year.
Man of the
something
Year,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah. And of course, Obama also participated in that Million Man March with Farrakhan.
1995, he helped organize that.
He helped organize that.
Your flag's surrendering there.
It's in distress.
Did somebody do that on purpose?
No,
It's in distress.
Okay. All right.
Maybe on
Before we get
November.
any
So-
comments on
Maybe
that.
on November 7th, it was in distress.
No, this is, Barack Obama grew up in a very leftist environment, and his education is very leftist. And he associated with a lot of Palestinian supporters all through his college years and after his college years. And that's really where his mindset is. He's not a pro-Zionist person. He's not a pro-Israel person. He's not pro-Jewish. He sees the Palestinians as an aggrieved people preyed upon by the Jewish Zionists who have no business occupying the land of Israel. That's really where he's coming from with that. And pretty much everything that he's done and all of his associations actually lead you to conclude that there's no other
Rational.
there's no other way to look at it. When he says he's the friend of Israel and points to the military relationship or the social relationship between the two countries, this is a pre-existing condition that he has to function within.
Well, that's a very good point. And for those of you listening, at 22 minutes past 3 o'clock in the afternoon, this is very important. Israel is about to invade Gaza. Gaza is a separate entity right now, and Israel left there in 2005, came out of the Gaza Strip. They're about to invade, to go back in, because they are being fired upon, missile after missile after missile after missile, and they're going, stop, stop, stop. They're about to enter Gaza in a military campaign to fight to save people who are being killed in Israel.
Yeah, another point I'd like to make about the president is very early in the beginning of his first administration, which I guess technically he's still in, he indicated very strongly that in his worldview, the problems of the Middle East were the Israelis versus the Palestinians, not the rise of a nuclear Iran, not the Saudis threatening the world to shut down oil production, not the rise of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. All these things were incidental. The casus belli of the Middle East is Jewish people building apartments in the capital of their country, and that's what he goes ballistic over. And he really, really believes that. And he sends his Secretary of State, his ambassador to the UN, and everybody else in his administration to convey that message to the Israelis, to the Europeans, to the United Nations, and then turns around and has a different sweet story when he has to go visit the AIPAC convention annually. But really, that's what it's all about. He sees the Jews of Israel as the cause of everything that is wrong in the Middle East, and
Mark,
therefore
throw
everything
cold water
wrong in
on
the
me,
world.
okay?
Well,
Throw cold water
I
on
better
me. I'm
get Tom,
starting to ignite. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this: if my mentor, my person who taught me everything that I know, and was one of my idealistic people, was David Duke, would you not like
the KKK
the
guy?
KKK guy?
Grand
was
Wizard,
David
what-
Duke, and the other person who taught to me was, a high-ranking socialist in another. What? And I say, hey, Tom, I want to come work for you. What would you say to me? He said,
Yeah, if David Duke, the former Grand Wizard
Right.
of the Ku Klux Klan, was your mentor and you said you wanted to work for me, I would say, no, you're not allowed to work for me.
Because
okay?
of who you were mentored.
Well, yeah.
And then you look at Edward Said, who was Obama's mentor and the greatest, pro-Hamas and everything, and he's citing and getting funding from. But go ahead.
No, Edward Said. We're going back to
And
his
Rashid
education.
Khalidi.
Going back to Obama being 10 years old. And you brought AIPAC up. I went to the last two AIPAC events, and the president spoke at both of them, and I was very close, maybe 50 yards away, both times.
They let you in?
And and there was a lot of anger 2 years ago when he had, on that Thursday before he spoke on Saturday, where he called for a return to the 1967 lines, which were the lines before the 67 war, where in a defensive war, the Jews won territory, which they now get to keep because they beat the guys trying to kill them. President Obama said 2 years ago, well, in order to really have peace, you guys got to go back. You got to give everything back to the guys that tried to kill you. And the Jewish people at AIPAC, 10,000 of them, were furious. There was a whole plan for everybody to stand up, thousands of them, and walk out when he came on stage. So, and there were about 1,000 or 2,000 of the observant Jews, the more politically conservative, and they were sort of on that side. I was sitting over there with them, so I'm just watching, wondering what's going to happen. And he comes out, he being the president. At AIPAC, the walk from the curtain to the podium is about 75 feet. It's quite a walk. And they have people all set up around. You were there last year, but you weren't allowed in.
I wasn't allowed in.
That's another story. So by the time he leaves the curtain and the time he got to the podium, maybe 15, 18 seconds, his body mannerisms, his waving to his friends, his flashing smile, the way he walked in, I mean, he just grabbed control in a very surreal way of this audience of Jewish people that were furious with him. Within 45 seconds of speaking, hello, I'm here, and they're standing ovations. And I saw, as a theological student, it was always difficult for me to understand, how could you be let out of Egypt by Moses? God provides your sustenance on a daily basis. The Egyptian army's underwater, all of this. Moses goes to talk to God. By the time he comes down, there's a golden calf being built. How does that happen? I saw something take place like that with almost an idyllic worship of this guy as he spoke and standing ovations to people that were castigating him an hour earlier. Tremendous power over the AIPAC Jewish people. I don't know what it is.
I don't either. I mean, certainly he doesn't have the power over me.
Well, they're Democrats first, and they're Jewish second. If you're Democrat
know.
first, then he's your idol, and he's the one he's your standard bearer, and it's.
Well, here's why this is so important.
Well, I don't think it's just the Democrats. I think probably for most of the people in the room, this is the first time they ever were in the room with the President of the United States, and they, maybe they got caught up. There's some of that too.
There may be a little bit of that, but why this conversation is important. If you want to join us on it, it's 888-565-1470. Israel just called up another 75,000 reservists. We are getting minute-by-minute updates from folks on the ground in Israel. Iranian missiles are now being fired out of Egypt, okay? Missiles supplied by the Iranians, the Farj, F-A-R-J, big, 30 feet long, 3 feet wide, big, gigantic missiles are being fired out of Egypt, the reports are coming to us on the ground. We haven't verified that. I asked our guy there, can you prove this? Absolutely. But if missiles are being fired out of Egypt right now, 75,000 reservists have just been called up. Friday night, the IAF, the Israeli Air Force, has our people on the ground said this does not happen, has never happened on a Friday. It's Shabbat. The Air Force is all over the skies. They're flying all jets all over the place right now. The most likely is going to be a massive operation into Gaza, which means door-to-door fighting, which means tomorrow dead little Palestinian babies are going to be held up like little martyrs, and the whole Arab world and the United Nations and everybody's going to be condemning Israel. We're bringing you this information, and the man at the center of this, like we said 6 months ago, the man at the center of this is President Obama. And so far, he has not had the capability to find his tongue to make a positive, definitive statement of support for Israel. What he said yesterday was, Israel has the right to defend themselves. What a nice gratuitous
He
remark.
said it through a
thanks.
State Department spokesman, by the way. He didn't say it himself.
Hey, Tom, you get the right to defend yourself. Oh, thank you.
We put out today an email to promote our show, and we said, let me find it. I'll read what we wrote. But that's why it's important for people to understand where this president stands.
By the way, over 1 million Israelis in bomb shelters today.
Right now in bomb shelters. Yeah. 888-565-1470. I want to read you. Here's the little thing we sent out this morning. War, President Obama, where do you stand? Not where do you stand politically, when your political calculus, but now it's after the election, so it's going to be very interesting. Israel's at war, and isn't it nice that President Obama of it. This is tomorrow's. What's happening? This is tomorrow. We're predicting what's going to happen tomorrow. Okay, we're going to show you a video of what is going to happen tomorrow. So take your video cameras, go down to Broward Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Take I-95 north or south. Head east on Broward Boulevard, the center road that goes into Fort Lauderdale. Go down to 3rd Avenue, and on the left-hand side, to the north side, there's the Federal Building, U.S. Federal Building. That's where all the protests and demonstrations are. This happened December 30th, 2008. It's going to happen tomorrow. Are we ready?
No, go ahead.
I'm going to read what we think the president should say today. He should call for a press conference and say, hey, guys, I'm going to make a statement, and here's the statement. And we wrote, on this worldwide Muslim Day of Rage, today is the Muslim Day of Rage against Israel. President Obama should get off the golf course and make a strong, clear, unequivocal public announcement like this. This is what he says, what we hope he says. Good afternoon. My name is Barack Obama, and I'm the President of the United States of America. My message today is to Muslims all over the world. I view any attack on Israel or on any Jew anywhere in the world as an attack against the United States of America. And we will respond with any and all of our capability, including overt and covert military actions. Make no mistake, the United States and Israel will fight side by side to destroy Muslim jihadis wherever they hide. And then we go on to say, make a note to yourselves, America, don't hold your breath waiting for this speech from President Obama. The bottom line is President Obama is pro-Palestinian way more than he's pro-Israel. You think so, CJ?
Absolutely, 100%. It's the only way. It's the only way to look at it. And let's talk a little bit about the Gaza Strip where Hamas is. First of all, in 2005, Israel unilaterally decided to withdraw from the Gaza Strip, but they left a lot of nice things in place for the Palestinians who live there so that they would be able to provide for themselves and their families and build their own little bit of paradise in Gaza as the Israelis had. And so what did they leave? Some of the most sophisticated hothouses anywhere on the planet. Grow your tomatoes, grow your flowers, ship them all over the world, build a prosperous society, live in these beautiful homes that we built out of, with our own hands. Groups of wealthy donors who were Jewish from the United States actually got together and raised like $500 million to give to the Palestinians just as startup money for themselves in Gaza. And what did they do? The Palestinians, after the Israelis, who didn't want to leave there to begin with, their government forced them to, forcibly evicted them. What did they do? They rushed in there. They burned down the synagogues. They defaced the cemeteries. They burned down, tore, and looted the hothouses, the homes, and everything else that existed in Gaza. And they turned it into a wasteland and a launching pad for a war of hate and a reign of terror against Israeli civilians. We don't want peace. We don't want self-rule. We don't want to take care of our people. The whole focus of this society in Gaza is its hate for Israel, for the Jewish people, and its overwhelming desire to eradicate them off the earth. And pretty much that's their only reason for existence.
That sounds a little extreme, but we're going to take a look at this video, and then
what do you mean that sounds a little extreme?
It's if I were just a guy out in the street listening to what you said, I'd say she's overstating the case, and but you're either right or you're wrong, or you're overstating it, maybe. But we're going to. December 30th, 2008. Then we realized it's got a lot of bad words in it. The Palestinians know how to say bad words. The women do anyway. Ma'am, So if you want to see it, you have to go to
Yeah,
our
and
website.
she was dressed in her full religious garb and everything else. You know, what a sweet, modest little Muslim woman this lady was, right?
Yeah, that was
And
so.
she's on the video saying, "Beep Israel, nuke Israel,"
What is this? Nuke
and
Israel.
screaming for the Jews to go back into the ovens, and you need to build bigger ovens, and very sweet, yeah.
So you can go to theunitedwest.org, and we have a bunch of videos right on the top. Just keep clicking through. I think it's up there, isn't it? Do we put it up there?
It should be there.
It should be there. If not, let us know, and we'll show it to you. But it's pretty wild. But it's got too many swear words in it.
Yeah.
Here's what we're doing
And
today.
that's what they do all the time, and that's the problem with a lot of these people. It's when you go out and you deal with these people on a one-on-one basis. We just don't sit here in a studio and just talk about this stuff, or just theorize about this stuff, or just wonder about this stuff. We actually go out into the streets, and we catch these people on video, because video does not lie, and we catch them saying these horrendous, terrible, all god-awful things that just send a shiver up.
vis-a-vis Adolf Hitler.
Right.
And then there's almost a self-correcting process in Western civilization based upon the rules of civilized life, where life is good, liberty, prosperity, worship of God, your family, and just a civilized approach to getting along with one another through dialogue, through discussion. But when you bring in the Eastern mindset, when you bring in the Arab mindset, which in many respects is a amalgam of 7th century Arab strong horse, weak horse, infused with 21st century PhD analytical thinking. You put those two things together, and you have the Arab street, which does not want a dialogue. Good is good, bad is bad, and they see everything exactly the opposite we do. So the way you win is the strongest person, the toughest person, the roughest person is the winner of the tribe or the country or the civilization. That's the clash we're in right now. And the West is trying to use Western principles of winning their hearts and minds, and they want to slit our throats. That's why the COIN, counterinsurgency theory of General Petraeus, is a complete failure, a complete failure. We're going to make a big circle today to go from the Hamas situation in Israel and the necessity to unite with Israel to showing how all of this relates to Libya also and the president's foreign policy package, because it's exploding right in our faces at 43 minutes after the hour.
It's exploding in Israel's face.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, and what you're talking about, that's where you see that guttural, visceral hatred. It's pure emotion. I'll put it to you this way, Tom. If Israelis were acting in that guttural, visceral, hate-filled way as the Palestinians do, it would be nothing but nonstop media on their actions and reactions. If that video would have been the other way by saying about Palestine,
if the Jews were doing that,
if the Jews were doing that, that would have been like, oh my God, MSNBC, CBS, every one of them would be all over that. But you don't see Jewish kids out on the street corner, going in that direction, or even expressing themselves in any way, shape, or form in that manner. Anytime that Jewish people do, it's always the other way. It's like, oh my God, how can you be saying that about your own people? And it's amazing the emotion, the visceral hatred, and I can't explain it. You just have to see it. You have to see it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to see it, but one of the reasons why it exists is because Islam teaches a supremacist viewpoint of life. That,
Supremacist?
yeah, that Islam is the supreme religion. Allah is the supreme God, and every religion teaches this. I mean, you wouldn't have a distinction in religions except for Unitarianism, which everybody's fine. I mean, Judaism has to believe that they're right theologically. Christianity has to. Otherwise, what's the distinction in your religions? Of course, there's commonality in particularly Western religions, but there has to be a unique distinctive to make it different. Well, Islam, and all of us believe ours is superior to the other. But my view that my religion is superior to someone else's religion doesn't allow me or require me to kill the person if they don't believe me, okay?
Especially my religion.
Especially yours, your Unitarianism. And Islam not only has that philosophical position that we are supremacist, but they believe it. They're trained that way in all their upbringing. Jews don't exist, and Christians are second class, and all this. But they haven't, as they entered into the West, particularly starting in the middle of the 20th century, with the oil production fields and going out of the deserts and money starting to come in and wanting to get their kids out of there and sending their kids to England and places like this, United States. As soon as they started entering the West, they brought that supremacist mindset. We are better than you, but they were never able to convince anybody that they're better. So they become psychologically, they become psychopathic in a sense. I believe I'm something fabulous, but nobody believes it, and I can't even convince anybody. So you build up all this hatred, and you strike out kinetically, physically.
And also, you have to blame, and that blame mentality. I cannot stress how important that blame mentality.
I'm so supreme, it can't be me. It's
It
got to
can't
be
be
them.
you.
Yep.
And you look at Obama's past when he was actually brought up Muslim. He was indoctrinated with that blame mentality, and you see that with Obama, where it's always somebody else's fault, where it's always Bush's fault, it's always this fault, it's always this guy's fault. People say, well, he has nobody else to blame now after 4 more years. I go, yeah, he does. He always will invent something. You don't get it. I mean, it's never their fault.
I think the case with the Arab Street, the Muslims that you're talking about, also, especially where Jewish people are concerned, is it's part of their religious teaching from their religious books that they read, and their nonstop sermons preach hatred. For not just the political state of Israel, but specifically for the Jewish people. If you look at education across the Middle East, it's all about Jew hatred. All of it. A math class.
We went to...
a math class in the westernized... areas of the Palestinians under Fatah control. Abbas's
that's a mess, that whole thing, too.
Area.
Well, like Umar Balinde was saying, I mean...
As a Muslim, yeah.
As a Muslim. I mean, he was brought up as a Muslim. If you haven't seen that video, please go see that video on our website, Umar Balinde. He was, simply put, he was a former Muslim, was a da'i, which means he actually used to convert people over to Islam, and he was, very high up there. Then he finally found Christianity, and once he did, he started converting Christians, from Islam to Christianity, and they hated him so much they threw acid on his face and burned half his face. Now, the point being was, he says, you don't understand the mentality. You people in the West do not understand the mentality. When we're brought up as Muslims, Israel doesn't even exist on a map. Israel's not even a state. Jews are lower life people than bugs. They're not even people.
This is in Uganda.
This is in Uganda. This is not even... Yeah, right.
This is a Muslim growing up in Uganda, taught that Israel doesn't exist. We were you and I, Mark, and you, Mike, we were in Israel in February, and we had an opportunity to go behind the scenes in the Herzliya Intelligence Museum. We had a special briefing, and they showed us the maps, CJ, the maps from
Right.
the Gaza Strip that are being used to teach first grade, second grade, third
Yeah.
grade. Guess what? Guess what country isn't on the maps?
Yeah, Israel.
Israel.
Israel's
Yeah.
not even on the maps. There's no geographic recognition of Israel. And I mean, we started saying as the United West years ago, and I remember me as a speaker, I made a definitive decision one day because it's like, land for peace, 2 states, 1 state, 3 states, 5 states. I made a definitive decision in terms of my beliefs to state that that it's an absolute, this is about a year and a half ago, it's an absolute waste of time to find a peaceful solution in the current situation. And what I said was, Israel should have a press conference tomorrow and say, guess what? 25 years, one generation, we're not even going to discuss peace. In fact, we're not even going to start the clock
right.
for the 25 years until we examine all of your curricula being taught to all of the students in the Gaza Strip. And once the curricula meets the basic minimum standards of the civilized world, where you don't teach hatred about another group of people, and you include the country that you're in the midst of, once you start doing that, it's going to take 25 years. Then 25 years from now, we'll have our first peace meeting. Every time you fall back, the clock starts 25 years. And until that time, you are an occupied country. We're going to surround you, and you're going to have less and less liberties simply because you're acting like uncivilized people in a civilized world. And it's the future is in your hands. That's what I would say to any country that acts like
We'll
that.
bring this down to a personal level, Tom. I mean, and people usually understand this when you break it down to a personal level, is I come up to you and say, hey, Tom, I want to kill you. And you say to me, what, Tom? Why? Correct? And I say,
Why do you want to kill me? What did I do to you?
I'm going to kill you. Because I think you're vermin. I think you don't have a right to exist.
Well, you mean I took your land, or I don't have a right to exist?
You don't have a right to exist. I'm just going to shoot you.
Well, how could you say I don't have a right to exist?
Because I have a gun, I'm going to shoot you. Because I wrote it down in my Constitution, my charter, it says
Which we're going to talk about.
Israel exists and continues this to Islam will obliterate it. And that's my doctrine. That's my motto.
This was our introduction, folks, on this 16th day of, it's getting warmer and warmer in here. Look at that.
Yeah.
The 16th day of November, 2012. It is now 77 degrees inside our studio, but what is it outside, CJ?
Outside, it is 75 degrees
Oh, let's
in
go-
beautiful downtown Boca Raton, Florida.
Let's go
Our weather
outside.
girl, CJ.
Let's go outside.
CJ, the weather girl.
And a traffic report, Mike. Traffic.
There are cars outside.
There are cars on the road, and they're moving up and down the road.
That's right.
Dixie Highway. So there is traffic, there is weather, and we will hold your
Weather
hand.
happens.
Yes, weather's happening. We will hold your hands through some tricky water in the next couple of hours. We're going to look at the organization called the Hamas, which is an acronym. We're going to look at when it started. We're going to look at the Gaza Strip. We'll give you some information about its size, its density, what it does, who these folks are. And all of this is going to be extremely relevant because this operation, anybody know the name of this operation, the Israeli operation?
Yeah.
They always give names to these. This one-
Operation Pillar of Defense.
Pillar Operation. They probably played around Pillar of Fire, right? Like the Pillar of Fire that let out the
Yeah.
Israelis out of Egypt. But they said, nah, let's make it defensive, okay?
Yeah.
Operation Pillar of Defense.
Yeah.
This is going to be an extended operation. They are going to have to go into the Gaza Strip. It's going to get very nasty. There's going to be a lot of loss of lives on both sides. There's going to be tremendous pandemonium in the Muslim world. There's going to be a call for, and at this point, the Israeli government is saying, we are sick and tired of how many, 100, 200 missiles over the 7 or 8 years since exodus out of Gaza? How many missiles?
Did you say 100?
Yeah, 100 or how many?
Yeah,
missiles?
how about tens of thousands?
Oh, okay. I missed that.
Tens of thousands.
I think it's something like 13 or 14,000. Are you folks listening? 13 or 14,000 missiles fired from the Gaza Strip after Israel gave all the land back. Well, now the Israeli government said that's
well,
it.
wait a second.
We gotta end it right here.
Okay.
And the Israeli government said, that's it. We're going to put an end to this right now. You're going to see a lot of news about Israel and the Middle East and Egypt, and we're going to get you ready for it. And we're going to be back just in a little bit. You're with Tom Trento, CJ, Mark on the 16th day of November. Beautiful day in Southern California. In Southern Boca Raton here. And we shall see you shortly. I got to get a drink. See you. Bye-bye.
Okay.